Hello and welcome to IT Security Labs, and in this 13th video in the series we are going to run BloodHound and collect some data so that we can see a path to domain domination. We want to be able to get to domain admin and compromise the entire Active Directory, and in order for us to do that we will need to run a tool called BloodHound that will give us a clear path, if there is one, on how we can get there. In the past videos we have gotten system hashes, we even dumped some credentials for the administrator, and we have one credential that I think is going to help us. It's going to be our machine domain account hash that we have. But for those who are brand new, we're going through the Game of Active Directory Ninja Hacker Academy, and so far we've gone through most of the queue chain steps. We compromised our SQL server, we gained persistence, we installed persistence there, we gained system access, and also we had credential access last time. Now that we have the credentials, we want to move to another machine. So lateral movement, step 14, that's where we are. Lateral movement is a technique that enables an adversary to horizontally access and control remote machines. In this case, we want to go to other systems that are in this domain. So without wasting time, let's go and see what we can find. So far, this is where we want to end up being. We want to end up with a BloodHound that shows us this path here. We'll talk about what this looks like in a little bit, but at the end of the day, we're going to be able to see how did we get all the domain data, and also how did we run BloodHound? What is BloodHound? All that stuff. To begin with, I have a clean Kali machine here. And when people get access to a system, let's say a domain joined machine, and if they can run a tool called BloodHound. BloodHound will show us a path like, hey, here's a machine that you've compromised. This machine is part of these AD buckets or groups or organizational units, and here are some special permissions. As you can see here, spoiler alert, this is what you will see after we are done. And BloodHound is a tool that really helps us. So in order for us to begin, let's create a directory called tools. Then I'll go to tools. Inside of my tools, I'm going to clone and set up BloodHound. For our setup, we have some pastables here. First, in your Kali, make sure you run sudo apt update to update your system. Let's do -y. All right, so our update finished. Next, let's install Docker, because we are going to need Docker for BloodHound. Super straightforward. Copy pasta. We're also going to need Docker Compose. Okay, so to install Docker Compose, I'm just going to curl the binary directly from the Docker Compose location. Okay. That was the one. We curl and add the binary there. And then next, what we're going to do is we're going to make it executable and create a symlink for it. Simple. And then a symlink, we should be able to run it. Boom. Okay, so we have steps for installing Docker Compose. Okay, so we have Docker, but right now, as you can see, our user does not have permissions. So in order for our user to have permissions for Docker, here's what we did. We can add our user to the Docker group. So sudo user mode, add our user to the Docker group, and then the user should be able to run Docker without needing permissions for the binary. Docker ps. Okay, so now our user is in the Docker group. Here's a guide that I saw online that was very helpful. So I encourage you to follow it if you want. This person goes in detail explaining everything about BloodHound, including the installation steps as well. They're still valid. This is a great guide. Otherwise, you can also check out official SpectreOps documentation. Highly suggest you go through this. And it talks about install BloodHound CE. First, you need to install Docker. Desktop, if you're using desktop, I installed Docker and Kali as I just showed you. Next, I say in Linux, you run this command, then unpack, then install. That's exactly what I'm going to follow. I'm just going to follow their steps. And I'm in Linux, it's Debian. And in here, I'll make a directory called BloodHound. This just makes it easier to stay organized in case you end up with more tools. Otherwise, here we go. BloodHound, CLI, and then next, use tar All right. You can actually remove the tar because all you need is the BloodHound CLI, and that will do all the work for you. When you run BloodHound CLI install, get your Docker container down, but make sure you have Docker and Docker Compose. Otherwise, this will not be great for you. This will take a moment. As you can see here, it's downloading the containers database. The most important thing here, as you can see, says is complete, and here's your password. You only get this password once. There's a way for you to get it if you forget it, but make sure to remember this password. And it says, hey, we are done here. You can even say Docker PS, and as you can see, it's in healthy state. So now, all you need to do is open a browser or just open link. This will open in a browser, and then admin and password using this password. So I'll copy this password, and the browser is going to open, and then we can sign in. Admin, then password, the long password that was in the terminal. Then after this, is going to ask us to change it. Okay, the expired password, I paste it again, then I write another one. I think it is password complexity requirements. So think of a long, safe password for this one, because you have secrets in here. When you first sign into BloodHound, this is what you see. It doesn't have any data. There's getting started instructions here that you can always open. It will show you how to do things. What I want to do is I want to get my collectors, but before I do anything, this theme, I'll change it to dark by going to the right here. I want it to be a dark theme, much better for me. And then next, I will also want to download collectors because I need SharpHound, and SharpHound is what I'm going to run against my target. I'm going to use my Adaptive C2, just like Cobalt Strike, using execute assembly so that I can run SharpHound in memory. However, I still need a location on disk where I can save that data and then download it. That's what we'll do. So download collectors, and then what you want is the download SharpHound. And here is the SharpHound. I'm going to open and unzip. It's going to be in downloads. Right click, send to, no, I need to extract to in there. I'll extract it in the downloads, but you can extract it in whatever you want. So here, as you can see, I now have sharphound.exe, sharphound.ps. Right now, I'll run the executable. It's in my downloads, and we can just come back here, and I'll show you how to run it. Okay, so now that we have SharpHound installed, we can go ahead and use execute assembly to run sharphound.exe. This will run it in our current beacon in memory. We're going to be using our system beacon in Adaptive C2, and then we want to run all methods, including collecting groups, users, and everything. Then we give it zip file name. I found out that this actually doesn't work. We still get individual files even after specifying zip file name. Maybe it's because I'm running it via execute assembly or something, but I'll show you anyway. Then we can say save the results in C loaders sharphound.zip if that actually works. So here is what we can do. First, we'll come to Adaptive C2. Let's make sure that we have our system beacon, and we're using that. So choose console. Here we are. If you're doing ls, we are not in the loaders folder. Let's go and check, make sure that the loaders folder does not have what we need. Okay, so we're going to go to C loaders. Let's make sure that there is no files. Let's check it out. If you say in ls, in C loaders, we notice that we have just these files. We don't have SharpHound. Now let's run Sharp. First, make sure that your SharpHound binary is in your downloads folder, like mine here. ls downloads. See that I have sharphound.exe in here. I'm going to use execute assembly, running everything in memory inside of the system beacon. It's important that we run it in system so that we can actually have the correct permissions to run it in memory, and also so SharpHound can access the domain. So here, as you can see, it's executing assembly in memory. We're going to see the results here as it runs. Oh, and again, in our Kibana, I don't think we have any alerts. If we refresh, we don't have any alerts right now. I'm in my collection. Oh, let's just see. Execute assembly and SharpHound collection all. And after a while, it gave me this randomly named file here. So that's all we need to run. Let's modify this. We don't need to specify the zip name. Okay, so after we just needed to wait for a little bit, it takes a few moments, and my sleep here is set to 4 seconds. So just wait for a little while and you get a randomly named file, and after running this using execute assembly. So now we can just download that file, and then once we download it, upload it. So we can download this .zip, and using Adaptive C2, once the download is done, you need to come here and then sync your download. So as you can see, here's the file. You right click, sync file to client, and then you choose your location. I'm going to go to my downloads, open, and save. Okay, so as you can see, I already also had another one called SharpHound.zip. That's the same file. That's the same exact file with the same amount of content in it. So this one and that one. I will show you how to import it in a brand new Kali, so you know how this is done. So after having your SharpHound file on disk, go back to your newly deployed, and then if you go to explore, it should error out like, hey, you got nothing here. You can click start uploading your data, then file upload. You can drag and drop here. Otherwise, if you just click there, I'm going to my downloads, and I have this SharpHound.zip with the data, upload, and upload, and close. So you might have to wait. The status here is ingesting. You want to wait until it's complete. Then once it's complete, you can start interacting with the data. Okay, so as you can see, it says complete, complete. That's what we want. Then we can go back here. Now to choose explore. This should show us that we now have a lot of data. The community edition, unlike the older version, this one does not show you much. So you need to do your own searching here. Pathfinding, we know that we have a machine called SQL that we owned. So as you can see, SQL shows up here. I like to mark things as owned. So right click right away and add to owned. SQL Academy Ninja, we can even see some information here. See if there's anybody who is logged in and all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, that can also be our starting node. I can say destination is DC. I just want to see if there's any DC 01, DC-V, DC-AC. Let's see if there's a path from that machine to that one. Okay, SQL is part of the computers. Okay, SQL, right away I can see that SQL is generic or on the computer object. And the computer object, that means that we can write to the computer object, like we can create computers and also add more permissions. I don't know if that includes the children, which is, in this case, we have web, which is part of that. And there's a user with a session, Frank, and Frank is allowed to delegate to share. So this is a path to domain domination already. This is one way we can actually become a domain admin, as I can see here. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, but we have SQL here. We have generic O in the computer object. Then computer object contains web, and web, there is a user called Frank who has a session there, and Frank is allowed to delegate to the share server, and the share server is read GSA password. Read GSA password can force change another credential here, and as you can see, this is a clear path to domain domination. We can also use the cipher here to search the query that I had in there. I found it from one of the write-ups. It's just, if you wanted to say, hey, I need a path to domain admin from my owned objects, you can run this query here. There's a GitHub page that contains some of these BloodHound queries. If I find it, I'll post it. Otherwise, just search on GitHub, BloodHound cipher queries, and you'll be able to see some. But this is the one saying, hey, match shortest path to domain admins from owned systems. And if you do a run, it will also show us the same path, I'm pretty sure. That, hey, SQL is generic O on, computer object. There's actually a couple here. But it's generic O of computer here. Then computer is web, and web is Frank. Frank is allowed to delegate, and so forth. As you can see, this is the path that we'll be taking towards domain compromise later in this session. So we'll be doing this in the next few videos, but I just want to show you quickly that in BloodHound we can run our queries in here, and there's a way you can craft them that's super easy. You can also go to pathfinding, and you can put a start and end. In our cipher, I believe there was, if you click on the saved queries here in the envelope, we can also say all domain admins, if there is any. So we have Alice, who is a domain admin. We also have administrator, map domain trust, if there's any trust between domains. Let's see. Yeah, we have academy.ninja.line, then we have ninja.hack. So there will be domain trust exploitation in the future. Principals with DCSync. Okay, as you can see, path from users to 0. Okay, workstations where domain users can RDP, servers where domain users can RDP. All kbrosable users is a regular user. Yeah, Frank, that user, Frank that we saw earlier. We also have SQL that can also be kbrosted. And then let's look at shortest path. I used to use this a lot during the OSCP, like shortest path to systems trusted for unconstrained. Okay, shortest path domain admins from kbrosable users. Okay, we can do that if we can compromise Frank. Remember, Frank shows up later. This query, yeah, Frank had a session on web, and it's the same path. It's the same path as we saw earlier. So that's one path. Shortest path to domain admins, I'm pretty sure it's the same as well. SQL is generic on a computer, and so forth. Shortest path from owned object, that's the same. So here we might have to zoom in and then move around. Moving around is like an art, as you can see here. But this is us using BloodHound to move forward. As you can see, I already found the same path multiple times here. Very quick. In the next video, I'll show you how we can get chugging along on that path to domain admins. It might take 3 videos. I'll make them short, straight to the point, and fast. Otherwise, this was a video on BloodHound and how we can use it to enumerate our domain. And as you can see, we have a path to domain admin that we will be exploiting in the next future videos here. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.